Hello, 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 and welcome back, family, to my channel. My name is Huddy, and tonight we're talking New York by Night. As always, this video is not scripted, and these opinions are mine and mine alone. Just a quick disclaimer before we start, some of you may know that I am a community ambassador for World of Darkness, and so any teasers that you might see for upcoming episodes of New York by Night were likely made by me, meaning I did have early access, but I recorded my thoughts, or at the very least wrote down some bullet points before moving on to the next episode. Now with that out of the way, let's talk about Season 2, Episode 6, Someone Else Before, shall we? First thing to mention is, oh my god, look at all these beautiful vampires. Braun looks so much like David Bowie, I was squealing. Kalita returns with the opera glasses. Kiam looks angelic in white as always, and yes, I use that word deliberately. And if Coco could wrap herself in cloth made of cold La Sombra attitude, she would. Second thing to mention is that the Camarilla coterie is of the Marechal type, something that we do not know about the Anarch coterie. Marechal means that the coterie serves the prince, or baron, in this case prince, doing their bidding as attendants and or errand boys, as it were. This usually leads to influential elders attempting to insert their childer into the coterie, which, as we know, is exactly how this coterie began. Along with Marechal comes advantages. In the case of this coterie, it is 2 dots of chasse and 3 dots of status. Chasse means how well stocked and rich the domain is as a hunting ground, as well as referring to the physical size of the domain, with 2 dots granting between 2 and 4 blocks of territory, depending on the geography of the city. Status dots, of course, bode well for the coterie with their standing within the Camarilla. Tonight, the coterie have to meet with Simone at Club Crimson, so we join Coco and Kiam at the Frosted Glass, now their shared haven. And here is where I need to point something out, something that I have noticed in the last few episodes. The Camarilla coterie is missing the camaraderie of the Anarch coterie. Ray's attempted betrayal in episodes 7 and 8 notwithstanding. Now, I don't know if this is because of the very nature of the Ivory Tower they all nominally belong to, or if it is simply the clashing of these kindred with their ambitious natures and natural viciousness, again Braun notwithstanding. But it becomes most apparent so far in this exchange. Coco immediately tells Kiam that they have information about their sire, but won't agree to share it until Kiam gives her all the details about the last time she saw Amadeus. Details Kiam either will not share or cannot remember. Instead, she shoots back asking about Coco's sire and the conspiracy for power he is involved in. Coco scoffs at where she got this information since she has no sire around to speak of, and Kiam insults Coco's reliance on Renato, calling her his pet. This devolves into a volley of insults, with Kiam asking for some of Coco's hair, and Coco telling her to fuck off. It was brutal to watch. Those of us who watched LA by Night know what it looks like when a coterie falls apart. But this coterie is barely in its infancy, and to see that no sense of kinship has been formed in the nights they've been together is incredible. Kiam claims revenge on anyone who knows what happened to her sire and hasn't informed her, specifically Rafferty and Kalita, and Coco urges her to be careful what she says. Kiam innocently asks who would be listening, and one of the lessons Kindred should learn sooner rather than later is assume there is at least one Nosferatu in every room. Upstairs, Braun is still attempting to heal the remaining damage from his fight with Airbox and ends up at 3 hunger, but is now at full health. Braun's snazzy new threads are thanks to Kalita's presumably immense closet, and she gives him a pep talk about how wherever he goes, the key is to act like he belongs. Braun still professes some difficulty in controlling his anger around people who stare at him or make comments about his appearance, but Kalita encourages him to not give a fuck about what anyone thinks, and Braun thanks her, saying he just wants to be useful. Braun is definitely the outlier in this coterie, and it's impossible to not feel for him. He's clearly been beat down emotionally, physically, and mentally for most of his unlife, if not also his mortal life. And now, although he's feeling accepted by his coterie, we know at least 2 of them have designs on his loyalty, power, and his mind. Kiam and Coco join the rest of their coterie upstairs and make their preparations to head over to Club Crimson for their meeting with Simone. Braun brings his knuckle dusters, Kiam keeps Look abreast of her situation as well as packing a short sword and a pistol, Coco with a pistol and brass knuckles as well, while Kalita has a pistol in a thigh holster and a pair of opera glasses. Clearly the most dangerous weapon of the bunch, the weapon of dramatic effect. Arriving at Club Crimson, it is as it was a few nights ago, surrounded by people who reach out for them them, begging with limbs and mouths for the kiss, something that Kiem delights in with her particular proclivities for the human form. Heading down the several staircases into the club proper, the doorman, whose hand Kiem broke, is perhaps understandably absent, but who does meet them is someone named Jehun, excitedly greeting them, professing to cater to their every whim, to be there for their every pleasure, calling the theme of the night hidden decadence. Jehun hands each of them a crimson envelope with their names written on it in gold lettering. Bronze says Derek, a name we heard back in episode 4 when he introduced himself to Aisling Sturbridge, and he mutters, "They know too much," as he goes to open it. Inside, the letters say "Find Your Bliss," accompanied by a symbol. For Kiem, the symbol is a dagger, for Braun, a boxing glove, for Coco, a seashell, and for Kalita, a mask. Now, where have we seen these objects before? Oh, Jason, you crafty genius. Jehun goes on to explain that their bliss can be found and followed by seeking out the individuals carrying these symbols. But there's a caveat to this little parlor game. They are not allowed to drink a drop of blood until after midnight. Braun immediately protests because he's at Hunger 3, but Jehun advises him to find his bliss and ask for their permission, if the need is so great. June also tells them that, as is common to most Kindred establishments, there is no violence allowed, but should a dispute occur, Simone may issue a walk, which is when two Kindred duel in the art of fashion, body, and face, as civilized Kindred should, in order to settle it. Inside the club is a plush crimson pleasure palace, with all of them wearing symbolic chains representing an individual's bliss. Kalita enters with awe, forcing several patrons down onto their knees as she parts the sea of people. Kalita unfortunately rolls a messy critical in the pursuit of finding her bliss and succumbs to her clan compulsion of arrogance, which states, "The need to rule rears its head in the vampire. They stop at nothing to assume command of a situation. Someone must obey an order from the vampire. Any action not directly associated with leadership receives a 2 dice penalty." Now even more single-focused on finding her bliss, she eventually finds a man named Merrill. Kalita instructs him to prove he's worthy to be her bliss, and he gets on his knees and bows his head. When satisfied, Kalita pulls him up by his chain, no longer under her compulsion. Coco takes the opposite approach, slinking into the shadows of the club, but the patrons seem prepared for this, and some block her visage with their bodies, throwing up their hands to shield her from prying eyes. Coco finds her shell-adorned bliss, a young man named Neil. Braun enters without pretense, holding up the symbol of his letter, asking outright for his bliss. Again, the patrons are prepared, and some of them begin shadowboxing to the beat of the music. Braun is uncomfortable with this flash mob, but is able to find a man with a boxing glove, and without asking his permission, Braun feeds on him, sating 2 hunger. Any discomfort Braun might have felt melts away with this muscular man in his arms. Braun commands him to be afraid of him, and to his surprise, he complies. Kiem enters more personably, touching everyone carefully and deliberately, searching their necklaces for the one that will bring her to her bliss. Eventually, she finds a woman named Louise, who ecstatically greets her. Kiem asks how she was chosen, and Louise claims to have been commanded by Simone, that whatever Simone wants is what she wants. Kiem is disappointed at this answer, telling Louise there seems to be nothing about her that pertains to knives and daggers, but Kiem hugs her anyway, enjoying the sound of her beating heart. As a memento, she takes some of her hair and the chain around her neck. All of the coteries' blisses take them to a secluded lounge room, where Simone herself, played once again by the amazing Persephone Valentine, is waiting for them, lounging on a large black pyramid throne, surrounded by mortals with angel wings strapped to their backs. An attendant named Yvette greets them as the blisses close the door behind them, remaining on the outside. Coco is curt with Yvette, but she is not intimidated by Arla Sombra, nor is she threatened by Braun, telling Yvette to watch her mouth. Simone puts silence to everyone immediately as she descends from her throne to greet her guests. Now, just as in Season 1, Episode 6, it's impossible for me to convey the incredible performance done by Persephone Valentine. She embodies the clan of snakes, exudes decadence and manipulation with equal measure, and I will do my best to summarize their conversation, but I absolutely cannot do it justice. Kalita attempts to get down to business about Club Crimson being in their territory, but Simone scoffs, claiming that Rafferty gave her this club, that he knows about it, that he even owns the building above it. Future Huddy, put in that clip of me calling Rafferty a liar in the last recap. Daddy Rafferty is a liar. Simone also reveals how much she knows about all of them, but specifically targets Kalita, telling her that Rafferty is too prodigious a breeder for her taste, that she's already met her sister and given her a gift from their sire. If this isn't throwing up red flags for Kalita, I can only assume she's experiencing the sunk cost fallacy, which sort of makes sense as to why a lot of Camarilla neonates accept their fates as permanent barrel scrapers. One by one, a person with wings approaches each one of the coteries standing next to them, and although the coterie are all suspicious of how this club operates and how she is able to influence all of these people, Braun even accusing Simone of mindfuckery, Simone simply laughs and says it's not necessary when humans adore you. Kalita, trying to remain on track, asks if Rafferty was aware of all of these things. Why would he send them there? Why wouldn't he tell them of their business arrangement? And Simone shrugs, saying that she knows Rafferty wanted to meet them anyway, and that she's always interested in meeting and learning about New Kindred. Kiem asks if she's an Anarch, and Simone says that the Anarchs would think so, and that the Ivory Tower would say that she belongs to them. But she would claim allegiance to neither, rather only to herself and her own bliss. Simone goes on to say that she's able to do this by her vast network of connections, and warns the coterie of remaining safe, that by not taking risks, they'll never grasp any real power if they don't break some rules. Very similar to Rafferty's advice, the real rule of the Camarilla is don't get caught. Simone, repeating something she had said to the Anarch coterie, comments that no person comes to unlife without having been interesting in life, and asks them in what ways they are interesting. Kiem agrees to Simone's statement, saying that she was always fascinated with the human form and that the fascination has only amplified since becoming kindred, prompting two of the angel-winged mortals to reach out to her with delicate limbs for her to admire. Kiem is tempted to bite, but Simone reminds her of the Midnight Rule, looking pointedly at Braun. Braun apologizes for breaking it, but Simone doesn't seem upset. Rather, she states that the rule is in place because she believes pleasure only increases with patience, and it is Braun's loss, not hers. Simone then takes them all aside privately to hear whatever desires they have, starting first with Coco, who claims that someone is stalking her, someone she has perceived in the shadows with her, but she has no information. And to Simone's surprise, she isn't aware of this individual. With Coco offering information for her assistance, Simone agrees, summoning Jahun. In exchange, Coco shares information about Argus, again, information Simone was not aware of, and Simone remarks how vulnerable she feels, as if she is standing before Coco naked. Damn, Persephone is so amazing. Can we have a whole season of Simone just being seductive and girl-bossing New York City? Thanks. Next up is Kalita, who takes a much different approach, using Dominate on Simone to force her to tell her everything Rafferty is conspiring to do. With Nora and Persephone's dice rolls perfectly matched with critical successes, Simone informs her that she doesn't need to use any powers on her, that it is simply a crutch for those who cannot command respect without them. However, Simone does reveal that Daddy Rafferty is playing both sides of the field, namely working within both the Camarilla and the Anarchs, something long suspected by the family. Simone goes on to talk about Margot, calling she and Kalita night and day, Kalita cold like the moon and Margot fiery like the sun. And while Simone offers to make an introduction, Kalita seems to take on that task herself, declaring she's planning to visit Margot soon. Next up is Braun, who immediately asks Simone how she knew that he was attracted to men. And Simone is amused by the question, saying that his desires are evident in his eyes. She goes on to encourage him to seek his bliss, that he is more than deserving of it. And I think I speak for everyone in the family when I say, agreed. Braun deserves to be happy. Finally, Kiem asks Simone for information, any information about her father, the first one or the second one. And for the third time this evening, Simone is unable to provide answers. So instead, she offers a similar deal she did for Coco to look for the answers Kiem wants in exchange for a boon. Yvette, who seems to have a difficulty keeping herself contained, blurts out to Kalita everything I and probably most of the family have been saying, that Rafferty wanted her to come into contact with Margot, wanted her to come here, and learn that Simone and Rafferty are business partners rather than telling her outright because he's testing her, and he's testing her because he's an asshole. Kalita takes offense to Yvette slandering her vampire daddy, so Yvette challenges her to a walk. Simone is intrigued by the idea and commands Yvette to pick a second against Kalita and Coco, to which Yvette picks Kiem. Kiem protests, but Simone whispers to her that what she loves about Toreador is that their vision of beauty is unique to each one. But Simone whispers to her that what she loves about Toreador is that their vision of beauty is unique, that they pursue that beauty with an unmatched fervor. Kiem pauses for a moment, and if I was a betting gal, I would say that in that moment, perhaps for the very first time, Kiem felt seen, really, truly seen by someone. Fortuitously, midnight arrives as the walk begins, and it's the House of Heels, named by Kalita, versus the House of Crimson. Categories are face and body realness, with Yvette and Kalita serving face, while Kiem and Coco serve body. Also, when Simone said, "Don't fuck it up," all I could think about was a drag race by night, and I need it. I need it so much. much. The walk is performed via social warfare, one would call it, and it's 3 turns and out. Also, I really recommend watching this whole scene again if you want to play-by-play because much like with specific instances and fight scenes, I have a terrible memory. But what I did write down while watching was Yvette comes out with a total of 8 successes, while Kalita manages an impressive 13 successes, which is 1 win for House of Heels, and 5 superficial willpower damage for Yvette. With Body Realness up next, I definitely remember Kiem's performance because she pulls out a sword, slicing the willing hands of the audience and spraying their blood through swinging motions all over the runway. So gross, so cool, so creepy. Kiem, everyone. Kiem comes away with a whopping 14 successes. Coco, however, blows all the contestants out of the water with 18 successes as she entrances the audience with her shadow dancing. Therefore, House of Heels take the walk and Kiem's entire willpower track is filled up with superficial damage. Yvette offers Kiem a boon for her participation as Simone looks at her with disgust, remarking that Yvette no longer has a name to her. If you haven't already, please go follow The World of Darkness on Twitch and YouTube, and if you can, sub to those channels as well. If you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing to me and let me know your thoughts on Season 2, Episode 6, Someone Else Before in the comments. As always, I'll see you in the next one.